For as long as humans have sailed the oceans, we've looked out over endless waves and wondered what lurks beneath. After all, the sea is mysterious, vast, and mostly unexplored, which made it the perfect breeding ground for legends. Sailors returned home with tales of enormous monsters, beautiful mermaids, and terrifying beasts that could crush entire ships. For centuries, these were considered myths, fantasies born from fear and imagination. But as science has advanced, we've discovered that many of those so-called mythical creatures had real counterparts in nature. Some are still alive today in the deep ocean, while others vanished millions of years ago, leaving only fossils behind. So today, we'll explore 12 mythical sea creatures that really existed, and the real-world animals that may have inspired them. 1. The Kraken, giant squid. Few sea monsters are as famous as the Kraken. Norse legends describe it as a creature so massive it could wrap its enormous tentacles around a ship and drag it into the depths. For hundreds of years, scholars dismissed it as nothing more than a fisherman's tale, an exaggeration of fearsome storms or hallucinations from long voyages at sea. But the truth is much stranger. Modern marine biology has proven that giant squids do exist, and they can grow to more than 40 feet in length. Their huge eyes, among the largest in the animal kingdom, allow them to see in the pitch-black depths of the ocean. For centuries, their elusive nature meant they were almost never observed alive, only washing up occasionally on beaches. Imagine being a sailor in the 1600s and seeing a massive tentacled body floating near your ship. Wouldn't you swear you had just encountered a monster from the deep? 2. Mermaids, manatees, and dugongs. Mermaids are among the most enduring myths in human history. From Greek sirens luring sailors with songs, to the enchanting half-women, half-fish creatures of European folklore, they've appeared in stories across cultures. But could mermaids have a real explanation? Many historians think so. When explorers like Christopher Columbus wrote about seeing mermaids, he was likely looking at manatees or dugongs. These slow-moving, gentle sea mammals rise up out of the water to breathe, and from a distance, especially to a tired, half-starved sailor, they could easily be mistaken for a human figure. With their rounded heads and limb-like flippers, the resemblance is closer than you might think. And when you add in weeks of poor nutrition, dehydration, and a vivid imagination, suddenly, the line between fact and legend blurs. So, while there may never have been fish-tailed women singing on the rocks, the truth is that mermaid legends were probably inspired by very real encounters with unusual sea mammals. 3. Sea serpents, or fish. For centuries, long, snake-like creatures called sea serpents haunted sailors' tales. Today, we know that the oarfish, a massive fish that can grow up to 36 feet long, matches the description almost perfectly. Rarely seen at the surface, when they do appear, their ribbon-like bodies and silver scales look eerily like a serpent of legend. If sea serpents turned out real, what other mythical monsters could science explain? 4. Leviathan, ancient whales. The Bible describes the Leviathan as a monstrous sea beast that cannot be defeated. While the mythical image was terrifying, some scientists think it could have been inspired by ancient whales like Basilosaurus, a massive predatory whale that lived 40 million years ago. Unlike today's gentle giants, Basilosaurus had sharp teeth and a body stretching nearly 60 feet. Imagine being an ancient sailor and spotting that. What stories would you tell when you got back to shore? 5. The sirens, real predatory birds. In Greek mythology, sirens lured sailors with enchanting songs. While often linked to mermaids, early depictions showed them as bird-like creatures perched on rocks. Some historians believe sailors were describing large seabirds with eerie cries echoing across the waves. Combine that with exhaustion at sea, and the legend of deadly sirens begins to make sense. But what happens when nature's illusions turn into deadly myths? Let's keep going. 6. The sea bishop, strange marine animals. In the 16th century, stories spread of the sea bishop, a creature shaped like a man in bishop's robes, found by fishermen. While the exact animal is unknown, many scholars think it may have been a type of angel shark, or even a misidentified ray, whose wing-like fins look like cloaks when spread out. If one strange-looking fish could become a bishop, what other ordinary animals inspired extraordinary myths? We've already seen how giant squids became krakens and manatees became mermaids. But the second half of our journey takes us deeper into even stranger waters, where extinct, monsters and bizarre living creatures gave rise to some of humanity's most chilling legends. 7. Charybdis, whirlpool phenomenon. Greek sailors feared Charybdis, a sea monster that swallowed ships whole. But many historians believe this was a poetic description of real whirlpools. In certain narrow straits, powerful tidal currents create deadly vortexes strong enough to capsize small ships. It's a reminder that sometimes nature itself doesn't need monsters to be terrifying. 8. Scylla, ancient giant crustaceans. Charybdis's counterpart, Scylla, was described as a six-headed sea beast that devoured sailors. Some theories suggest Scylla could have been inspired by sightings of giant crabs or large marine creatures clinging to rocks. The danger was real. Ships that sailed too close to rocky coasts were often smashed apart. But Scylla shows how myth can exaggerate a real danger into a legendary monster. 9. The Loch Ness Monster, plesiosaurs. Modern-day myth or ancient memory. The Loch Ness Monster has often been linked to plesiosaurs, marine reptiles that lived millions of years ago. While they're long extinct, fossils show they had long necks and flippered bodies, exactly like Nessie's descriptions. Could ancient fossils or misidentified animals have kept this myth alive? And if plesiosaurs once ruled the seas, who's to say myths don't carry echoes of prehistory? 10. The sea dragon, ichthyosaurs and mosasaurs. Across cultures, legends of sea dragons describe huge reptilian beasts that swam in oceans and terrorized sailors. Paleontology has shown us that ichthyosaurs and mosasaurs, giant marine reptiles, really did exist. Growing up to 50 feet long, with jaws lined with sharp teeth, they were every bit as terrifying as the dragons of legend. Sometimes, the monsters of the past were real, and far scarier than myth. 11. The Lusca, giant octopus. In Caribbean folklore, the Lusca was a half-shark, half-octopus sea monster. Modern scientists suggest this may have been inspired by the giant octopus. While less documented than giant squids, octopuses of enormous size have been reported by divers, and their elusive nature only adds to the mystery. Could the Lusca prove that legends sometimes hint at creatures we still don't fully understand? 12. Sea monsters of Viking legends, dead whales. Viking sagas often told of huge sea monsters mistaken for islands, but scientists believe many of these sightings were actually whales. When dead whales floated to the surface, their bloated bodies could resemble strange, monstrous shapes. Combined with imagination and fear, a drifting whale carcass could easily become a terrifying myth. Which leaves us with one big question. How many of today's myths are just waiting to be explained by science? From krakens to sea serpents, from sirens to sea dragons, we've seen how myths often carry a kernel of truth. Real animals, strange phenomena, or extinct giants that once ruled the seas. Humanity's imagination may have exaggerated them, but the roots of these myths are firmly planted in reality. The ocean still covers more than 70% of our planet, and most of it remains unexplored. Who knows what new mythical creatures might one day emerge from the deep? So, which of these creatures surprised you the most? Do you think there are still undiscovered monsters hiding in the oceans today? Let me know in the comments.